We're live.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Adityanji, and I am the President and Chairperson, Board of Directors of the International Commission for Human Rights and Religious Freedom. ICHRRF is a US-based NGO that focuses on human rights and religious freedom. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the executive team of the ICHRRF, I invite all of you to our Speaking Up series, a special seminar. Wherever you are in US or any part of the world, good day. I'm going to introduce a little bit about the ICHRRF. The International Commission for Human Rights and Religious Freedom is a US-based nonprofit focused on upholding human rights and religious freedom through continuous monitoring, policy intervention, and collaboration. We are focused on educational, research, legal, and human rights advocacy and charitable purposes, and we strive to be an avid advocate for the human rights and religious freedoms of underrepresented communities wherever they are in the entire world. We do believe that humankind can no longer afford to be selectively vocal about the rights of only a specific set of people. A humane and just world necessitates fair treatment of all living creatures. Our focus is on rights of indigenous and ancient people and their freedom, free speech, and their cultural preservation. Some of our initiatives include monitoring violations of the freedoms and sanctity of religious and philosophical minorities across the world, research into and documentation of the culture, history, and challenges faced by such communities, policy interventions on human rights, religious diversity, and pluralism to international organizations, agencies, national and local governments, collaboration to support the cultural and philosophical diversity across the world. And since January 1st, 2022, we have started Professor Ved P. Nanda Fellowship Training Program in Human Rights to train the next generation of leaders in the field of human rights. And currently we have 2 fellows that are part of the fellowship training program. Those of you who are not aware will see that this is our logo. And the seminar topic today is ethnic cleansing of religious minorities in Pakistan. Just to be on the record, today is Sunday, October 9th, 2022, and we are starting this seminar at 10 a.m. Eastern Daytime. This seminar on ethnic cleansing of religious minorities in Pakistan will have 3 panel members. Number 1 is myself, Dr. Adityanji. Our second speaker would be Mr. Carl Clemens, the Executive Director of the ICHRRF. And our third and the most important speaker is a guest from Pakistan who has lived experience as a minority group member in the theocratic state of Pakistan, and the name of that last speaker is Mr. Ramesh Jai Paul. This is to show you the political map of Pakistan. This entire area in green is the state of Pakistan as it was carved out of India. A lot of time For political correctness, a particular statement is cited and it is attributed to the founder of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And I'm going to repeat this statement because it reflects the hypocrisy. Apparently, Mr. Jinnah said, you are free to go to your temples, you are free to go to your mosques or to any other place of worship in the state of Pakistan. You may belong to any religion, caste, or creed. That has nothing to do with the business of the state. This was his presidential address to Constituent Assembly of Pakistan on August 11, 1947, 3 days before Pakistan was carved out of undivided India. Although the statement is cited, this is far from the truth. It's ironical that a theocratic state uses this statement to camouflage the word community about the atrocities that have been happening in Pakistan since its inception. In reality, Pakistan is a de facto Sunni Muslim country that not only has the worst human rights record against the religious minorities and women in the entire world, but also a leading international exporter of radical Islamic or jihadi terrorism. All the international terror incidents have one common link, and that is the fountainhead state of terrorism, Pakistan. There are laws, Islamic laws against blasphemy. They have been misused and abused to instigate mob violence against minorities, with organized abduction and forced marriages of young non-Muslim girls, destructions of thousands of places of worship to create headlines in the news media, and also abuse of these blasphemy laws to settle personal scores and to usurp the land and properties of the minority populations, whatever religion they belong to. There is a systematic ethnic cleansing of religious minorities, and it forces a steady stream of non-Muslim refugees from Pakistan and the allied region of Afghanistan into neighboring India as well as towards the West, which is a travesty. So a little bit about statistics. This slide tells you in the pre-partition era, in the area that is now Pakistan, in that land area, in 1947, before the partition, Islam had only 69% of the population. Adherents of Hinduism were 24% of population. Adherents of Sikhism were 6% of the population. And then there were others, and others included minority sects like Baha'is, like Zoroastrians, like Ahmadis, like Kalash people, like Jains, like Buddhists. They constitute 1% of the population. So that was in 1947. However, when the first census was conducted in Pakistan in 1951, what happens? Adherents of Islam in a period of 4 years jump from 69% to 97.1%. What's the next eye-popping statistics? Adherents of Hinduism that were 24% before partition go down to only 1.6%. Adherents of Christianity were around 1.2% in 1951 population. Their proportion increased from others to a separate religion because there was massive ethnic cleansing, exodus, and genocide of Hindus and Sikhs. And the entire world watched this. In pre-partition era, Pakistan had an estimated population of 33 million just before the partition, and around 22.77 million were Muslims. There were about 8 million Hindus living in this region, mainly concentrated in Sindh and Punjab, and Sikhs were the third largest community, mainly in the province of Punjab. So what happened since Pakistan was carved out of India? That there's a sweeping aside of Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, Pashtuns, Balochs, Kalash, Zoroastrians, Jains, Buddhas, and finally Ahmadis. People who were in forefront of ideological battle for creation of Pakistan, the Ahmadis are now minorities and a persecuted minority. And this picture sadly tells you how Hindus were fleeing from Pakistan just like cattle. Hindus were not safe in their own land. And you see how they had to walk on the foot, with whatever little belongings they had. And of course, since 1947, there's a persecuted Hindu minority in the state of Pakistan that is dwindling in population proportion. Again, a picture of Hindu women who actually face the brunt of brutalities and atrocities of the state of Pakistan and its stakeholders, because they are the ones who are abducted, kidnapped, raped. Does not matter they are young or old, does not matter whether they are married or unmarried, they are forced to convert and marry their Islamic abductors. And this is the reality of jihadi terrorists in Pakistan, that on flimsy grounds they are ready to behead those who purportedly insult their prophet. And you see the religious fervor, the way these terrorists are shouting against the minority people. Of course, we are going to have a special talk on blasphemy laws and their misuse in Pakistan. Christian population is also being persecuted in Pakistan. Blasphemy law is being used against Christian minority. So it's not just Hindus and Sikhs that are being persecuted. It's all the minorities that are not Sunnis. Even Shia population in Pakistan is at receiving end. They constitute around 25% of population of Pakistan at this point in time. So the only state religion is Sunni version of Islam. What is the religious demography of Pakistan now in 2017 census? Muslims are 96.5%. Hindus are around 2.14%. Christians are 1.27%. Ahmadis 0.09%, Sikhs 0.01%, and others are 0.01%. So Hindus dwindle from 24% to 2.14%, and Sikhs dwindle from 6% to 0.01%. And according to the population census in 2017, you have this gradient of Hindu proportion in Pakistan. So everywhere except for some districts of Sindh that are adjoining Indian state of Rajasthan and Gujarat, Hindus are basically become quote unquote extinct in Pakistan. And I think that's a sad story that the land where Sanatan Saraswati civilization flourished, the land where Sanskrit language got its grammar from Panini, the land where the hymns of Vedas were created, is the land where the Hindu population is being prosecuted. We have two more speakers, so I'm going to give them time. So our next speaker, you probably have seen him. This is Mr. Carl Clemens. Mr. Clemens is a very unique individual who has contributed as an author to articles and books on subjects at intersection of public policy, information technology, contemporary and historical, religious, or ideological currents in society. He co-authored a book on languages and education policy focusing on history of discriminatory language policies in India, United States, Iran, and China. He has consistently advocated for a fair narrative on the past and present turmoil surrounding the Sikh and Baloch communities in South Asia, and has helped compile and analyze statistics on human rights violation in that region. Professionally, he works in the field of information technology, and he's a polyglot. He's a student of Persian and classical Sanskrit, besides knowing English and Hindi and Dari and Pashto. He has served with distinction and commitment as the executive director of the ICHRRF, and he is also the fellowship training coordinator for Professor Ved P. Nanda Fellowship Training in Human Rights that we started in the beginning of this year. Mr. Carl Clemens will be speaking on blasphemy laws in Pakistan and their misuse. So without further ado, I invite the Executive Director of the International Commission for Human Rights and Religious Freedom, Mr. Carl Clemens. Carl, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Alzinji. I see that Mr. Ramesh Jai Paul has already joined us, so I'll keep my comments short, but I'd like to share a few slides. Let me know when you can see my screen, please.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, wonderful. So, no matter which part of the world you live in right now, blasphemy laws are coming to your country if they haven't already. Here in the United States, we have honorable members of Congress who are votaries of it. So let's take a look at a country which has been rated even by the International Court of Justice as having the strictest anti-blasphemy laws in the world, namely Pakistan. So regarding the law, it is part of the Pakistan Penal Code, and as we'll see in a subsequent slide, there was a an evolution of how it became more and more severe as time went on, and punishments range from fines, monetary fines, to the death penalty, life imprisonment, and so forth. And it's defined really in the Pakistani constitution as Tawheen-e-Risalat, meaning the insult of the prophethood of Muhammad. Over half of those incarcerated, just to give a sense of proportion, although the fines, although the punishments vary, over half of those incarcerated for blasphemy face the death sentence. And in terms of those that have been counted by NGOs, over 1,500 cases just since 1984, not counting those that came before that day. Also, it has to be mentioned that apart from the state imposing and implementing the law, a large number of those who are accused of blasphemy, as well as their lawyers, or any policemen who may choose to protect them, or any of those in society who speak out against this use or even abuse of the blasphemy law, they have been murdered by mob justice, street lynchings, and vigilantism. So it bears mention that there's two levels of abuse that we're speaking of here. One is the laws themselves, and second is the abuse of those laws, of those unjust laws that have been criticized as unjust by bodies such as the ICJ, the International Court of Justice. The laws themselves are unjust, and then it is the abuse of those laws by mobs. So what are the victim profiles? The first and most high-profile victim are, of course, minorities. We often see news items about Christians in Pakistan being targeted based on their religion, often by rumors. But of course, a large number of those who are targeted by these happen to be Pakistani Hindus. We don't hear as much about them. The second is, of course, and a very important prime target, as we'll see later, of the blasphemy laws are actually Muslims themselves, particularly those who are apostates, those who consider themselves ex-Muslims or atheists, or even Muslims who are just liberal. They haven't formally renounced the faith, but they just have a lifestyle that may be at odds with what is recommended. Or it is directed at minority sects such as Shias, or it is directed in Pakistan, especially against the Ahmadiyya sect of Islam, who are a prime target of the blasphemy laws, which is doubly ironic because that is the only sect of Islam that is actually born from the soil of Pakistan. And finally, a significant chunk of the cases of blasphemy are filed by ordinary Muslims against fellow Muslims with whom they may have a personal rivalry. So that speaks to how vague these laws are, that just to settle personal scores, one can start a rumor that one's rival has committed an act of sacrilege or blasphemy, and the justice is quick, if not by the state, then by the community. So who are the champions of blasphemy laws in Pakistan? The most often cited champions are the Islamic political parties, the clerical establishment. And here, the interesting thing is, it is the Barelvi school of Islam. So in Pakistan, you have the two main schools, the Deobandi school, which is often associated with terrorism, running madrasas that train terrorists internationally. And the Barelvi school is typically considered the folk Islam, as well as the Islam that's aligned more with Sufism. And it's usually talked about in a more positive sense. But the fact is that the Barelvi school leads the charge on implementing blasphemy laws and also on the imposition of Sharia law in general. But the second and most important champion of blasphemy law is the Pakistani state itself. Not only governments and the police, but in recent times, the judiciary also in Pakistan, which earlier had tried to dilute the effect of the blasphemy laws, is now has become a champion of the blasphemy laws in Pakistan. So we'll see that since 2017, the Pakistani state has initiated a full-fledged crackdown on atheism and apostasy in Pakistan. Secular bloggers are being kidnapped. Government is running ads urging people to identify blasphemers amongst themselves. This is unprecedented. And the highest judges in the land are declaring atheists and apostates to be terrorists, that just by not believing in God or by renouncing Islam for another faith, you are automatically deemed to be like a terrorist. And the highest judges in the land have been saying that. So what are the roots of Islamic blasphemy laws in Pakistan? Of course, a blasphemy law in Islam in general goes back to at least about 1050 of the Common Era, when some of the most prominent Islamic theologians like Al-Ghazali they brokered. So what Ghazali did was he brokered a kind of an agreement between the Islamic clerical establishment and the ruling class on the one hand. In other words, government and Islamic legal clerics. And on the other hand, he brokered a marriage between Sufism and clerical Islam. And he was the one who came up with the idea of blasphemy and laws enacted by the state against it. Because at that time, Muslim theologians felt that a lot of Islamic philosophy that had sprung up in that time was influenced by Greek or Hindu or Buddhist or Zoroastrian philosophy. And so they felt that that Islam was sort of being diluted by these ancient philosophies, and they wanted to, and they suspected many people of not being true believers in Islam, and so they instituted these laws. So in Pakistan itself, though, if we look at the history, we can trace it at least back to 1927 under British colonial occupation, where Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Dr. Adinji spoke to the false narrative that Jinnah, he was in his halcyon days was the champion of secularism. That is really quite far from the truth. His lifestyle may have been very unorthodox, but he was certainly a pioneer of Islamism right from the beginning of his political career. And he was the defense in the case of Rangila Rasul, which was a book written by a Hindu person based on Islamic sources, criticizing the Holy Prophet. And that led to a mass uprising. And the British colonial administration enacted a hate speech law in that time. But the hate speech law was essentially an Islamic blasphemy law because it was not really applied to other communities. After independence, starting from 1956 onwards, when the first constitution was passed, Pakistan added several clauses to that colonial law. In 1974, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who was like the poster boy for Pakistan liberals, actually, his government passed the Second Amendment to the Constitution, declaring the Ahmadiyya sect as non-Muslim. It's unprecedented. And between 1980 and 86, Ziaul Haq's military dictatorship also made anti-blasphemy laws even more severe. And we'll take a brief overview of some of those developments. Most recently, in 1990, the Federal Sharia Court, which is only one step under the Supreme Court of Pakistan, the FSC ruled that capital punishment, with or without fine, is the most appropriate punishment for blasphemy. And the Supreme Court so far has not overturned that decision, even though they have been petitioned, even in very recent times, to overturn that. So just to take a brief overview of some of these laws, what I want to point out here is two things that the ICJ has pointed out, is that the vagueness of the wording of these laws makes it amenable to be used in any way that the government wishes to. And the second is how these infringe upon many other human rights that should be considered standard. So uttering any word or making any sound or making any gesture or placing of any object in sight with the deliberate intention of wounding the religious feelings of any person, it says over here, but as we'll see, it's primarily just used with Islam. The use of derogatory remarks in respect of holy personages. And then we have two laws specifically directed at Ahmadis, which means that the misuse of epithets, descriptions, and titles reserved for certain holy personages or places by Ahmadis, or passing oneself off as a Muslim, or preaching or propagating his faith in any manner whatsoever, outraging the religious feelings of Muslims, or posing himself as a Muslim. In other words, an Ahmadi cannot be an Ahmadi, period, in Pakistan. Injuring or defiling places of worship with intent to insult the religion of any class, deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage the religious feelings of any class, defiling, etc., of the Quran. So this one, the previous one was from 1927, and that has this vague term that for any class or any religion. But by 1982, it was being very specific, defiling, etc., of the Quran. use of derogatory remarks and sullying the name of the Prophet Muhammad. So the important thing is that some people say, well, the laws, the blasphemy laws are basically a form of hate speech laws, specifically about religion, and they're not just, it's for anybody, for any person of any faith. But the fact is that that's not true, both on letter and certainly in practice. The original wording of the blasphemy laws states as feelings of any person or any class. However, Article 2 of the Pakistani Constitution declares it an Islamic Republic, and Article 31 states that it is the country's duty to foster the Islamic way of life and prevent any other way of life from being preached or spread, and no criticism of some of the sacred objects of Islam. Moreover, the official school curriculum, state media, and social discourse are replete with material that insults religions other than Islam, specifically Hinduism, and misrepresents them and casts suspicion on their adherents. Apparently, none of that is hate speech. And lastly, I wanted to leave you with the fact that blasphemy is very closely associated with laws against apostasy. And not only are they closely associated, but you'd often find that they're used together. And in that sense, externalizing of blame and demonstrating brutality against non-Muslims is also partially intended to influence the minds of Muslims who may not be very happy being Muslims. So of 71 countries that criminalize blasphemy, 32 are majority Muslim. Blasphemy is punishable by death in a variety of Muslim countries, including Pakistan. Just for comparison, amongst non-Muslim majority cases where there are countries that have blasphemy law, the harshest blasphemy laws are in Italy, where the maximum penalty is 3 years in prison. Compare that with life imprisonment and the death penalty. Half of the world's 49 Muslim majority countries have additional laws banning apostasy. Every single country that has apostasy laws is Muslim majority. So what are they afraid of exactly? Amongst people who support Sharia law, there's about 25% in Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and so forth, 50% in the Middle East and North Africa. But in South Asia, that number is 75%, which includes Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indian Muslims. 75% of them say they support executing those who leave Islam. So I just wanted to leave you with that, a perspective on exactly where the blasphemy laws stand, how they are used, the victim profiles, and what may be the intended purpose of these blasphemy laws in terms of their actual target. Thank you, Dr. Advanji.
Thank you, Carl, for this eye-opening, presentation on misuse of blasphemy laws in Pakistan. As I was saying that, we have 3 speakers in today's seminar, and our last and final speaker, an honored guest, is Mr. Ramesh Jai Paul, who will be speaking next. A little bit about Mr. Jai Paul. Mr. Ramesh Jai Paul is a leading human rights advocate and peace activist from Pakistan, who founded the Hare Rama Charitable Foundation to help the underprivileged communities in rural Pakistan. He is a practicing Hindu, and as I said, that he has the lived experience of persecution in a theocratic Muslim state, where his religion is continuously under attack, his fellow people are continuously persecuted, his community's women are abducted, kidnapped, raped, forced to convert. Mr. Jai Paul has a fellowship in law and human rights from American University in Washington, D.C. He is also part of Hubert H. Humphrey Fellowship Program as a Fulbright Exchange Scholar, which is sponsored by United States Department of State Department of Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. Mr. Jai Paul is currently touring North America to raise the awareness, build partnership, and raise funds for flood-affected victims in the impoverished areas of Pakistan. And I would say that ICHRRF is deeply honored to host Mr. Jai Paul for this lecture when he will be talking about persecution of religious minorities and ethnic cleansing of religious minorities in the theocratic Islamic Republic of Pakistan. So, Mr. Jai Paul, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adatyanji and your team, ICHRRF, me here for support me and encourage me to come in United States and address your issues and meet with people and build a connection. So special thanks to all of you. And second, I'm very thankful to all people who supporting me, hospitality for and different support to me during my trip. As I was joined earlier, I think Dr. Adatyanji, you made a good sketch about the cleansing minority in Pakistan, and after that, Carlos also did a good job regarding to the blasphemy law. Someone, it is very easy to allege that some person is did a blasphemy, you never did anything. So I come to another point. If why this is happening, Call is mentioning a lot of things. It's good, but I would like to share some more. It is happened due to the curriculum. Our curriculum said that the only Muslim is perfect, only Muslim is high quality, only Muslim is a only Muslim is a Hindu is kafir, minorities are everybody is in the curriculum. So what happened in the society, in the youth, and they also did the segregation, discrimination, and that. As Paul mentioned about the blasphemy law by the what the name of Ria, and after that Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. So there's happening after that. There's a meeting a lot of policy, and this is a if there is a person is a governor Tasir, one of the lady is alleged on the name of the blasphemy, and people governor went to there to know to what is the real incident, and he came back and his guard is shut his down, and after that when his janaza, the millions of people there on the name of religion. So if you have a question, I love to answer the question. If I go somewhere on other point. If anyone have a question, I will answer. I'm not listening.
Sorry, I was muted. Thanks a lot, Mr. Jai Paul, for sharing your personal story about how the laws are misused against Hindu community. We invite our audience to ask any questions. Are there any questions to Mr. Jai Paul? People can raise their hands.
So may I go to my current trip, what I am doing here, and what is happening? If I go to the second option, second item is in Pakistan. So as you know, that the kidnapping and forced conversion of Hindu girls is happening in Pakistan. So every year, more than thousands of girls are kidnapped, and then after kidnapping and abduction, then she accept Islam, and they married, and we are unable to contact her. So the thing is that the Hindu community in Pakistan is very poor. They are mostly 98% under the poverty line. So family head and mother and brother and the whole family is working, and especially the girl is working under in a factory area as a domestic worker in an agriculture field. They face the harassment, and after that they are like like a cow, a buffalo. They treat them, and there is a facing harassment and rape and different other things. For this, from the saving to the rape, they first did the girl abduction. Second day, they accepted, they embraced to the Islam, and very third day, he is get married. If the abductor is a landlord or in a rich person, then he gets married to the girl with his servant or as one else. And after a month or 2 months, we are unable to contact with the girl, and they sold in a different places in the Middle East or in a Pakistan. So I also buy the 7 girls, return from them, and pay money and get back to girls from the abductors, and what they are doing, that kind of people. So yes, I go through against the forced conversion and happening in Pakistan. And second thing is in Pakistan there is the conversion is a lot to the, as you mentioned, Dr. Adatyanji, in the partition, during the partition in 47, Hindu community are the 24%. That is the showing in our flag. White area is showing to the Hindus on that time of minority. We are 24%, and our 1/4 is a white. But now we are in a low percentage, in a less than 2%. And you mentioned that the Hindu community is less than, but I want to just share with my knowledge. Actually, Pakistan, the Hindu community is the biggest minority of the Pakistan, but due to Western interest, from the America, from the Vatican, from the European Union, the Pakistani administrative, they divide in two communities. One is the upper caste, and one is the Hindus, and second is the scheduled caste. So bring the Christian community to up. So this is the main lake that we are. Hindu community is the most populated minority of Pakistan, but according to the census and other different resources, the Hindu community, Hindu is the Christian is a bigger minority. But recently, the Election Commission of Pakistan raised they issued the gazette of the voter, and our vote, Hindu community vote, is more than 2,075,000, and Christian community is less than 2 million vote in Pakistan. So we are the biggest minority in Pakistan, but in the representation and different other issues, we are unable to get. This is a main leg or main mistake is there is no election for the minorities. It is only selection for the minorities. If the selection for the minorities, those people who is the puppet of the political parties, they came and just enjoy their seats and everything. They are not working on a policy making. They are not working for the law. They are not raise their voice against the different laws. Yes. Any question?
We lost your voice, Mr. Jaipal.
I'm good here.
So let's take questions from the audience. There are a couple of questions in the chat function from Mr. Mohinder Gulati. And the first question is it possible to get information on kidnapping and forced conversion of girls? Create a dossier of individual cases for pursuing these cases in international organizations. Of course, we have to be mindful of safety of the girls and their families. Mr. Jaipal, do you have any information on that?
Sorry, I not understand. Information of kidnapping and the forced conversion of girls. Yes, I have information about the conversion of girls who has they have a kidnapping. More than 100 cases I deal by personally. We have, and we are trying to in the future that we put one of the petitions in the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and there we put the whole detail of those abducted girl and kidnapped girl and forcefully Islam, accepted the Islam girl, to put in the Supreme Court that we want to just bring the girl and show us. Is the same? The girl is in the hand of same family, in the same person who abduct and who get married, or he sold her. Yes.
The next question from Mr. Gulati is, what practical actions can be taken by Pakistani Hindus and international communities about this situation? Do you have any response, Mr. Jai Paul?
Yes. According to here, no one from the Pakistani community, sorry, no one from the Pakistan, sorry, no one from the United States is working for this kind of, especially I don't know to the who's working for the Hindu cause or for this abduction girl and this. But when I was in 2017, I was here in Washington D.C. That time I did my professional affiliation with Hindu American Foundation. They just made a figure, and they made just make a collect the data and everything. I provide them more than a 54 or 55 girls data, but I never seen in future in next that what happening with the data or not. I seen any update from them, or especially for the Hindu American Foundation or the other. They told me that we will be sent to the congressman, congresswoman, and different other political person parties. But I never seen or any not get any positive reply from anyone. And in Pakistan, through our organization is a pure social organization. So we are working for to saving through our volunteer, not the involvement of the Hare Rama Foundation.
Okay, okay. So it is said that United States government consistently, persistently, since 1947 has chose to shut its eyes wide close and ignore this human rights violation of minority community in Pakistan, and has continued to support the state of Pakistan and Pakistani military without reservation and without any results. Billions of dollars of US taxpayer money has been spent on Pakistan by United States government, and we do not have any iota of progress on human rights and religious freedom. I think it would be appropriate to mention at this point in time that in United States Congress, there's a bill that actually supports creation of blasphemy laws in United States, just as it is in Pakistan. So my request would be for our audience to work within the system of United States to make sure that these blasphemy laws are not enacted by United States Congress, because they will be misused not only in United States but elsewhere, because United States. So I would exhort all the individuals, all the organizations to work single-handedly to ensure that blasphemy laws are not enacted in United States. Furthermore, all the human rights organizations need to work in unison to ensure that blasphemy laws, wherever they have been enacted, are taken off the statute books. Whether that is theocratic states, whether that is democracies, we have to build an international environment that is conducive to removal of blasphemy laws from the law books of 71 countries where they exist. And certainly United States should not be the 72nd country that has blasphemy laws on its rule book. So it's the duty and responsibilities of all the citizens of United States to ensure that blasphemy laws are not enacted in this country. Furthermore, people here need to work with Congress so that no further fiscal appropriations are done to the state of Pakistan using any route. Pakistan has proven to be a rogue state which is against the rights of religious minorities, ethnic minorities, and there's no need to reward the rogue state of Pakistan by the United States government for any reason whatsoever. And with those comments, we will try to find a way so that this sad state of affairs in Pakistan against mistreatment of Hindus is stopped. Now I see there are a couple of more questions here. There's a question from Mr. Guti. How can individuals and organizations focused on human rights support you? Do you have any formal association or partnerships? Would you like to engage more? And this question is for Mr. Jaipal.
Yes, the individual can support us through the by the fund, and also individual can support by the become the volunteer, and also individual can raise voice for the Pakistani community, and organization can support through the partnership in Pakistan. And one thing more, Shri Aditya Rayanji, this is what I see in here. You told earlier that you raised a good point, but in my knowledge, the United States again faced a mostly problem in due to the Afghanistan and the other item, because after the Afghanistan attempt, the mostly 80% people came to the Pakistan, and they are doing a lot of things and happening. Recently, Blasphemy case, which is we faced in Hyderabad, is same due to the Afghani people. So there are a lot of things will happen in United States very soon. So it is good to aware the people and do something for the for this cause.
Mr. Jaipal, whatever statistics and data you have, you must share it with the United States Commission for International Religious Freedom, because US government tends to rely on that institution created by the State Department. And unless massive amount of data is submitted to them, situation will not change the US policy effort. So you and your colleagues in Pakistan need to be writing multiple letters and petition and submit evidence, whether it is paper evidence, whether it's pictures, whether it is videos, whether it is audio recordings, to United States Commission, USCIRF. I think that is very important in order to change the behavior of United States government, because that's the institution they rely on. They don't rely on anything else. Do you think you can do that effectively?
Yes, sir. We can do that, and we have already some information, and we can collect more and send it to your organization. And where if someone is become a volunteer and guide us, so what we do, we have a lot of material in blasphemy cases, in discrimination happen in Pakistan, and second is the forced conversion issues and different other issue which is facing by the minorities of Pakistan. We have a lot of material, but we don't know the path where we can send, where we send the material, and that we get benefit or benefit through the policies. And if last time is happening, one of the delegation came from the European Union in Pakistan. I met with them. There are 8 people, and I'm alone. I suggest them the European Union is given GST plus to the Pakistan. So why you are not connecting with the support of the Pakistan and ask them to made some law and some policy to the Pakistan? So they did it. So it worked. So it is the same thing we can do in here. So we send to the report and everything, and when the IMF or World Bank is supporting to Pakistan, that they can ask them to make the policy or some relaxation for the minorities. Yes, sir.
There's a question from Mr. Guti. What do you foresee as the key challenges for future of Hindu minority communities in Pakistan?
We're facing a lot of key challenging because there is the first step is we are economically very poor, so we are unable to. First is economically very poor. Second is educationally we are poor, and third is nobody is in a legislative committee or legislative level from our community is not. Especially we are the 98% of the minority, especially the underprivileged communities. So we don't have have a leader in the national or provincial assemblies, and so the policy is making every policy is making in a national assembly, provincial assembly. So we need to support from the US community, and they engage with us being a volunteer and raise our voice to here in United States and all over the world.
There's a suggestion / comment from Mr. Ron Jagannathan, and it is, what we need is the YouTube type of movies of Pakistani blasphemy laws and its misuse and how they affect the Hindu girls. Please screen these movies at Hindu temples for collective action. I think a picture is, 1,000 times better than a written report. But audio-visual media, making documentaries or films of how people are being mistreated, helps change the opinions in the US establishment. So please make short documentary movies of how Hindu girls are being abducted, misused, raped, whatever document, their personal story, you can collect in the form of audio visual, production. That would be very, very helpful. So whether you are submitting to United States Congress, ICHRRF, or to Hindu community in United States through whatever channel, let's have some documentary movies.
So we have a documentary movies and some of other media like some of the leading newspaper in Pakistan. So it is like the news and biggest Pakistan Times. Like this newspaper is also doing the story. We can make the same story and copy from the story and write a little bit more to the one of the pattern. If somebody support us or guide us for the pattern, it made a pattern for us. So I can put the all information to the pattern to the bring a one file and send it to you or other our friends in United States or congressmen or where we want to send them. So it will be helpful. There is one thing called. Hello.
Hello. Please go ahead. What you were saying.
Yes. Second is, if I raise the highly voice for the post conversion and anti-Blasphemy laws, so I think next time I will not like. This is the main thing is this. So we need to go very consciously and in a good way. So I just made the information on a pattern. I just send it by the email to you. You can do your team. You do what you want to do and support us. If I raise the voice, there is for the blasphemy law. So I will not more. And if I raise the voice for the abduction, because I was 3 times abducted by, kidnapped by the Sipa Sahaba, Lashkar-e-Jangvi, and they beaten me a lot, and even my leg is not working in a good way.
So, Mr. Jai Paul, we laud you on behalf of the International Commission for Human Rights and Religious Freedom. We appreciate your effort, your persistent efforts that you have raised to highlight this important issue about persecution of Hindu minority population, especially Hindu girls and Hindu women. We are there standing with you, shoulder to shoulder in your fight against injustice, against oppression, and against atrocities. You have an ally in International Commission for Human Rights and Religious Freedom. I am also sure that there are a number of other organizations, non-profit organizations based in the United States that are advocacy organizations who are willing to work with you. We wish you well in your fight. We also wish you well in your personal safety, because we realize that your personal safety is under threat from various quarters in the theocratic Islamic Republic of Pakistan. But besides you, there will be efforts required from the international community to make a change in the international environment so that these blasphemy laws are revoked from the law books of every country, because they go under the essence of freedom of speech. And United States citizens have a duty to ensure that no blasphemy laws are passed by the United States Congress in this country. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time off. And we feel deeply honored, Mr. Jai Paul, that you decided to come and speak on our platform. And with those words, we will be ending this meeting. The recording would be available on our YouTube channel as well as on our website, entire recording of this program. So please feel free to go on to our website or on our YouTube channel for the recording of this program. Usually within 24 hours, we upload this. We also share on the social media, whether it is Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. This would be freely available. Thank you very much indeed, and God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for your program, and thank you for your all team. A big thanks for all American community who is supporting me during my trip. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Bye-bye.